it's late and I've had some time to vent about, process some of my feelings around what SCOTUS did today. And I feel like this is a common theme when the radical, extreme, far-right activist 6 justices on the Supreme Court rule in favor of systemic racism, nativism, Christofascism. They rule in favor of giant corporations over the rights of American citizens, when they rule in favor of Donald Trump's destruction of democracy over the Constitution and the rule of law. I feel like I have this same reaction over and over and over again, which is, it's very normal. I think it's very normal to be horrified, to be enraged, to feel a deep sense of grief, and also just tremendous shame that this is the highest court in the land that I call home, right? A lot of feelings. And I guess if you are having feelings about how SCOTUS ruled today about asylum seekers, then your feelings are valid. Whatever your feelings are, they are valid. There is no reasonable, reasoned way to process what SCOTUS has done over and over and over again. Not only assisting, but like driving the destruction of democracy, driving the inhumanity and corruption that is so rampant in the United States right now. Right? I know that there are so many people, so many factors at play that have led us to this point, but none of this would be happening without a handful of Supreme Court rulings giving Donald Trump basically like total immunity. I know there are some exceptions, but the Citizens United ruling, the destruction of the Voting Rights Act, all of those were intentional choices that the Supreme Court made to side on the wrong side of history. The Roberts Court will go down in shame. They will be recorded in the history books as not having upheld their oath to the Constitution and the American people, but having violated that oath over and over and over again in the name of corruption, in the name of Christofascism, in the name of racism. Now, I'm not an attorney. I have a kid in my household who wants to be an attorney, and we frequently talk about Supreme Court cases. I am, like an avid amateur listener. And so I understand the ways that the court could be a tool for good. It could be a tool to uphold the rule of law and defend the rights of the American people. But that's not how the Roberts Court uses it. John Roberts has his own agenda, and he's spent decades advancing that agenda. Now he's reaping everything that he has sown. There's no way to view these rulings today which end the temporary deportation protections for Haitian and Syrian refugees who are fleeing violence, fleeing war, fleeing natural disasters. There's no way to view the end of their temporarily protected status as anything other than just complete overt racism, complete desire from the super conservative, radical 6 justices to advance nativism in this country. They don't want immigrants. They don't want immigrants. And the immigrants that are here, they want to do harm. There's no way to interpret, again, totally lay opinion, there's no way to interpret what they're doing as anything other than the vilest inhumanity. What they want is Christofascism. What they want is a white nationalist state in this country. They don't want immigrants. They don't want immigrants. They don't want freedom. They don't want democracy. They want white supremacy, and they want rule by corporations, and they clearly want corruption. In January, on Donald Trump's first day in office, when he immediately attacked birthright citizenship, when it became apparent what Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and Russell Vought were going to do with their attack on immigrants, I made a video talking about Emma Lazarus's poem, The New Colossus, which is on the front of the Statue of Liberty. And I know loads of folks have read it and referenced it since then. But looking at these rulings today, closing the southern border, making it much more difficult for asylum seekers to get asylum, people who are fleeing their homeland, what would it take to make you flee your homeland? Think about that. People who have uprooted themselves because they are facing the most untenable, the most dangerous of conditions. They are seeking safety. They are seeking asylum in the United States. And the Supreme Court has now made that much more difficult, much more difficult. And I'm looking at what has come down from SCOTUS today, and I'm like, did nobody else have to memorize The New Colossus in 4th grade and stand up and read it to the whole class? Because in Texas, we did, right? Did we not all have this drilled into us? Did Anybody else take a trip and go visit Ellis Island and go visit the Statue of Liberty and be profoundly changed by that experience? Think about your ancestors. You know, my ancestors came from Germany, and they came from England, and they came from Scotland. Through Ellis Island, they came to this country as immigrants seeking a better life. Like, I'm just going to read from the middle section of her poem. A mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. That's the story of America. We are a nation of immigrants. 97% of us are immigrants or descended from immigrants. We are a nation that has opened our doors to people seeking refuge, to people who were struggling, burdened, oppressed in other lands, and have come here looking for asylum, looking for freedom, looking for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what Scotus dropped today is just a tremendous violation of everything that we should be as a nation. How twisted do you have to be? How disconnected from your humanity do you have to be to turn away asylum seekers, to take people who've been ravaged, their homes have been ravaged, their lives have been ravaged by war, and turn them away? Take people who are fleeing the destruction of their country from natural disasters, from oppressive regimes, people who face, violence and death in their own countries, leave their homeland and come here looking for compassion and justice and humanity. And the Supreme Court and Donald Trump and Stephen Miller want to turn them away at the door. And I understand this is the same regime that is taking immigrants and renditioning them, exiling them to lands where they don't speak the language, where it is not safe for immigrants to go, taking people from Central and South America, from Asia, and keeping them in concentration camps in the United States until they board them on planes whose corporations have for-profit lucrative contracts with the United States government, shackled, wrapped in these like body bag burrito things, stuffed onto planes, not returning them to their homeland, not even to the continent that they're from, dumping them in Africa, in countries where there are warnings that travelers not go, right? The level of cruelty and inhumanity. There are thousands of little children in concentration camps. There are people in concentration camps all across this country. But this is what the United States is right now. This is what John Roberts and Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch and Samuel Alito and Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh have made this country into. A place of inhumanity, a place of injustice, a place where racism is codified into law, where the highest court in the land does not uphold human rights. It does not uphold the Constitution. It works for billionaires. It works for corruption. It works for inhumanity. It works for Donald Trump. Or maybe they don't work for Donald Trump. Maybe they have leveraged Donald Trump, actually. Maybe they have used Donald Trump to bring about this terrible vision. The legacy of this court will be shame. They will go down in the history books as the most shameful, inhumane, unjust, unconstitutional court that we've had in a very long time, maybe ever. I think, and I said this on Blue Sky this morning, that a top priority has to be Supreme Court reform. No court should be able to enact the destruction of an entire nation, of an entire democracy. And that is exactly what John Roberts has accomplished. That's what Clarence Thomas has accomplished. That's what they wanted, right? And they got their way. They're far too powerful. And they're ruling against the lower courts. So the lower courts are holding for the rule of law overwhelmingly. And the Supreme Court is furthering the destruction of this nation, furthering the inhumanity and the injustice on a regular basis, and they're enjoying it. They know the scope of the harm that they're enacting, and they're okay with it. And so we cannot be okay with this Supreme Court going forward. We can't be okay with this structure, this level of power. We need massive, massive Supreme Court reforms. And you should be insisting upon as much from your elected officials. It has to be a top priority going forward. It's a really dark day. We've had many of those under this Supreme Court. I'm so ashamed for our nation.